Hello, everyone. This is Coach Tim Campsall, and I'm excited to have a fellow business owner with us today. Something unique about my guest is that he started his business or started his first business before he started college and sold it at the age of 20, which is pretty cool. In his downtime, he enjoys spending time at their Florida condo, and he's most proud of his highly talented team that has allowed him to accomplish some pretty cool things that he's going to share with us today. It's my pleasure to welcome Derrick to the show. Hi, Derrick.
Hi, Tim. Thanks so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I'm super excited to hear your story. Let's start with having you tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself. Tell us your personal story.
Sure, you bet. So I'm a native Hoosier, born and raised in Indiana here, central Indiana. So I married my high school sweetheart. So we went to high school together at Center Grove and had two beautiful children. They're grown now, adults, and thankful to have two grandsons,
Congratulations.
six-year-old and a four-year-old grandson. So they live nearby is nice. The six-year-old already likes coming to the office on casual Fridays. I tell him you don't have to wear a blazer, but he still insists.
Aw.
So it's cool being now the second phase of life, grandparent, and we have our company here in Greenwood, Indiana, headquartered here, where all our companies are headquartered. We have some other business in other states, but yeah, that's where we're headquartered and where we call home.
Fantastic. What's a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share?
Oh, a funny story that my family would be willing to share. There's so many, I would say, but probably the one that comes to mind is we were on a river trip. So I think it was a church river trip. And so I'd never been on this river before. And as I recall, this was one they liked. So we started on the river, and then you break for lunch. You packed a lunch in the canoe,
Yeah.
and so I'm a little bit competitive, and so I thought, well, I want to get a healthy start, ahead of anybody because I don't really want to see the back of anyone.
Yeah.
I want to be ahead of everyone else. So we got started right away. I ate the food quick. We jumped in. I had my daughter, and we took off. And so we were ahead of everybody, So I now this was even a more enjoyable trip because I didn't have to stare at the back of anybody. And so evidently I had missed the checkpoint though. And so we were at the very last. I thought, boy, we don't see anybody behind us now for a very long time, for hours. We had no food. We had, no drinks, no
Oh,
water.
no.
My daughter, she's getting upset now. She parched and so this is terrible. And so we almost, if we hadn't missed this last stop, we would have actually made it to the Ohio River, which would have been terrifying.
Oh, no.
But the thing is, I did finish first.
Yes.
So we did finish first, but the entire group was at the restaurant. And, so we finally got a ride and made it to the restaurant, to the rendezvous point. And it was pretty embarrassing. It was one
That
of the
is
most
awesome.
embarrassing points. So it's where one of my, being competitive, kind of got the best of
Yeah.
me that day.
So first isn't always best.
That's true. That's true, Tim. Yeah, that's very true. In
Awesome.
this instance. Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah.
Tell us, how did the business come about, and at what point, Derrick, did you have the confidence you could run your own business?
It's funny as a young adult why you have interest in certain things. And for me, I was always interested in how money worked and finance and financial services and things like that. So that always interested me. So the first thing that I did, I thought I might be in like wealth management, as a stockbroker, you called it back then.
Sure.
But I found myself very early on in the mortgage business. And so started out as a mortgage broker and then migrated to mortgage banker
Okay.
with a little bit more control that we have now. But yeah, that's something that always interested me was just leverage with the money and finances and
Sure.
investments, that type of thing.
Yeah. And so then the confidence of going from, I know when you're a mortgage broker, you're always really working for yourself, but going from, still having the umbrella of somebody else to hanging up your own umbrella. How'd you have that confidence? What led you to be able to feel good about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, I think, I always probably saw myself self-employed. I
Okay.
think my father had a couple of businesses and maybe that was an influence.
Yeah.
But I've always been kind of an, independent
Yeah.
and a self-starter, had a lot of discipline,
Okay.
I was always into fitness. And so, that creates some, some self-discipline, I think. And so, yeah, I think when I was young, even in high school, I started a buddy of mine. We're still good friends today. He and I started a cleaning company, very early on. We were like, I don't know that we were 18 yet or something like that, 18 or so.
Yeah.
And so, so that kind of, I think at one point, we already had like 30 employees. You're 18 years old. We didn't know what we were doing, but we
Yeah.
just started hiring people and putting them to work. And then you learn a lot, when you're responsible for payroll and,
Yeah.
as they always say, who's FICA? So we learned that very early on about payroll taxes and how to run a business banking account. And so that was kind of like trial by fire.
Yeah. And you were able to sell that business at 20. That's pretty cool.
So we did. It wasn't enough to exit and retire financially independent, but we did. We created something of value. We had accounts, a book of accounts. We sold that, and so that was a good experience. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's cool. So tell us about the company today. What's the name? What do you guys do? How do you help people?
Yeah. So the name of the company we started over 30 years ago now is Approved Mortgage. So approvedmortgage.com. We're headquartered here. We're licensed in right now 5 different states, growing throughout the U.S. We intend to have more states, more loan officers in those states. We have at this time about 80 loan officers currently, and looking to scale to up to about 200 loan officers in 2026. We have somebody spearheading that recruiting effort, and so yeah, we're growing the most rapidly that we have since really the inception of the company. And then from that company came quite a few spinoff companies as well. So we have Ben Franklin Insurance Agency, Horizon Property Group that manages our office building and other real estate we own, and so yeah, we have some other businesses as well. Then they're all operated by our staff here.
Yeah, fantastic. And Derrick, what would you say makes you guys different or unique?
Well, we have every program that is known to man when it comes to residential lending. And so that really sets us apart. If you walk into your local bank, if you bank somewhere, you've got your deposit book there, your checking, savings. They're pretty they're pretty particular about who they lend to, right? And they don't have a lot of programs, so it's very narrow, and they only take the cream of the crop.
Right.
Now, truth be told, we probably have interest rates that rival or beat the local bank,
Okay.
but it's convenience. People walk in there and they say, well, I bank here, I'll get my mortgage here, but we offer probably a better value in terms of rates, closing costs, and certainly a diversity of programs we can offer to every type of credit scenario or income scenario. Many people may just flat out get denied at the bank but we're able to do that loan.
Yeah.
And we have a host of investors, lenders that we have relationships with that want that loan that maybe the bank doesn't want.
Sure.
And so for us, that's a good mortgage. But for them, it's not desirable. You could go to every bank up and down the street, and they wouldn't take that loan in many instances. And we have an outlet, an avenue for each type of, and that's what makes a business so interesting.
Right.
Everybody's situation is different.
Right.
They have a different credit profile, different income, different history, and that's what I always thought made it so interesting.
Yeah, very cool. We know that successful businesses can get stuck at various stages of their growth journey. And so having been in this for 30 years, I'm sure you've seen a ton. What's been your biggest challenge and how did you work through it?
Yeah, I think some of those journeys, is some of your systems, having a good system in place. That's certainly one of those milestones you have to achieve. And then certainly having good leaders. And that's probably we have good systems. We have good leaders in place, and that's what's allowing us to expand more rapidly now than we really ever have been able to before. And so there's no shortcut to those, like you said, in order to scale a business. And so it's it's a process to achieve, each one of those rungs. And a big part of it is investing in yourself as a self-employed or as a leader. So I've done a lot of, I've read a lot of books. I continue to study. We've been involved in EOS, and I was in the Vistage CEO group. I've read Vern Harness's Scaling Up. So we have a blend of these things that we do, within the company and in the operating system of our own company.
Yeah, I love how the order that you said those two things in, the systems first and people second, because if we don't have great systems, it's very hard to teach and train and hold people accountable to doing things consistently and well. And so, yeah, get the systems in place, hire great people to run the systems, and now we're able to scale.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Very cool. So success doesn't happen in isolation. So Derrick, I'd like you to think about and share 3 people who have been instrumental in your business owner journey that you're grateful for those people being there to help with the business's growth. So who are those 3 people and how they help you?
Well, first, I would say, probably my faith, number one. So I'm a faith-driven entrepreneur. And so that's always been the comfort and the kind of the true north. The other person's my wife, having her support. It's so important. If you've got somebody in your corner, man, that's really nice to come home to somebody that, will, that you can lean on. But then also, I've got a group of guys. I've had some peer groups. My Bible study group I've been with for started out on a snow skiing trip, and then we've been together for 20 plus years. And then my CEO peer group, I would say as well, and CEO coach. So those peer groups were a really big part of having a support group around you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think I forgot to ask earlier. What's your wife's name?
Janine.
Janine, awesome. Yeah, fantastic. It is so important to have that support at home, because being a business owner is not for the faint of heart, and the roller coaster ride can shake us up sometimes. And so being able to have that consistent love and support and encouragement, super, super important, isn't it?
It is. It is. What was it, like Elon Musk said, starting a business like chewing glass, it's a little dangerous and dicey at times. So, yeah.
You mentioned earlier the importance of learning, and that's certainly part of the path of success in business. So what's been your biggest learning as a business owner?
Probably the biggest learning is, all those elements that go into scaling a company, becoming, a leader, investing in yourself. I've read a lot of John Maxwell books. John Maxwell has been good in terms of, developing yourself as a leader. One of the very early on books I read about, kind of systems was Michael Gerber's book, E-Myth.
Yes.
That's a really old book, but that was a good one to read, when I first got going. And, today, like, Dan Kennedy, thinking a lot about who, not how. So putting the right people in your life, and then, a lot of scaling books I read, and talking about, again, putting those systems into place, putting the right leadership into place, and then creating the automations, then to be able to replicate that successfully. So, but it's easier said than done.
It certainly is. Yep. Yeah. So you mentioned scaling a couple of times. For folks listening in, there's a big shift that happens between the hustle and grind of figuring things out and getting the business to start growing versus being able to scale it. I think the stats are something like only 9% of businesses ever make it to $1 million, and less than 1 ever make it to 5. And it's the concept of, right, what got you to $1 million is not what's needed to get beyond and scale, right?
Yeah.
All of
that.
that.
That's a good point. And we certainly have made it past that. And we, are certainly very, very blessed. And a lot of it just because it's the people, that you have. Your greatest asset are your people, our team members. It just wouldn't happen without them. I mean, you can grind yourself as the owner, and I did for a lot of years. But that's not enough. In order to go past and truly scale your business to hit those kinds of milestones you're talking about. Yeah, you gotta You got to surround yourself with great people.
And what I see a lot is businesses will plateau. So they get to the whatever, one or two, they plateau, and it's because the owner's trying to do everything themselves, right?
Yeah.
And is doing the hustle and grind. And the reality is there's only 24 hours in a day, and we got to sleep for some of it. So
Yeah, and probably a lot of those people, there's people on your team maybe that are better than you. Sometimes it's hard to admit. You got to get out of your own
yeah,
way, but
yeah.
in certain areas they're better at that certain task than you are, and so it's being open minded enough to realize that, and not be the bottleneck in your own company.
Uh-huh, for sure. So, success also has a lot to do with mindset. I know you and I were talking about that before the recording. What guidance would you give to a business owner who's feeling frustrated or discouraged in their business?
Well, I mean, there's such a great outlet today, right? I mean, you can go down some real rabbit holes on social media, but there's some really good thought leaders available to go out. I one of them I do kind of like. I mean, he's got quite a following. I think over 10 million followers now. But that School of Hard Knocks, he interviews all the successful billionaires and other people that are not billionaires as well. Much to learn from. I'm in another peer group as well, and that's one of the things is kind of studying like what do these billionaires have they reach such a level of success that what their companies provide in terms of a product or service to their clients, and so that's that culmination of many of those leaders. There's a lot of material that I've studied,
Mhm.
and you do see a lot of these things that we just talked about in a grand scale that they've been able to achieve this level because they've mastered creating great systems, automation, and finding great people, and not creating those choke points in their own company. So.
Indeed. Yeah. Let's looking over the next year, Derrick. What's your biggest priority or challenge that you still need to sort out?
Yeah, so for me, seems like we always do have, we do have a new new company launch, gatewayeducation.com. So we're very disruptive in the post-secondary education market. So we provide college education courses for credit with top tier prominent universities, the most well-known universities, in an online setting that's so affordable. It's like $95 a month as a membership and only $79 a course, as opposed to paying $30,000-$40,000 a year for traditional
Wow.
education. So they can knock out general education credits, but that's a new story, and so it's different than traditional, but it's the way that the market seems to be moving because everything's gotten so expensive, including college education. So this is a way it reduces the cost down to almost the ridiculous.
Yeah.
And, but people don't know about the company, and so you've got to go out, create some PR, get some good press going, some good success stories. Share those, scaling your advertising budget,
Yeah.
managing those lead systems, and telling a good story, the message. So kind of doing it all over again in
Yeah.
that company.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. But we've been in that education business now for over 20 years. So we've had a really great start, but this is a new e-commerce platform that we launched. And then the other one was, like I said, we're really expanding our mortgage loan officers in multiple states throughout the country. And so those are some of our really big moves that we're making this year and in 2026.
So, Derrick, why is this growth, both examples that you shared, why is that important to you?
I think somewhat of like you're working in a career and you've learned all this, and it's all these years you've been learning all these lessons, and you've been compounding this learning phase, and it's a career accomplishment, career achievement. I think it's not so much about people talk about like, oh, I want to be successful, the money or something like that, but it's really career achievement and helping your people reach heights that they didn't know they could reach. I've reached heights that shocked me well beyond what I imagined. And now you want to help other people, do the same thing and come along, help them grow themselves, as an individual, as a professional, and also helping them with their own teams, within the company. So So yeah, that's energizing. It's super enjoyable, and that's kind of what gets me stoked and keeps me going.
I love you mentioned your faith earlier. I love that servant heart of now it's about helping others be the best version of themselves and realizing their true potential. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's no greater love than showing them, showing them some, and helping them, really create, the best version of themselves, that 2.0.
Yeah, love it. So, Derrick, last question. Jim Rohn said that we become the average of the five people that we spend the most time with. And you talked a little bit earlier about peer groups and such. But as you think about that quote, what advice would you have for business owners who are feeling stuck, but they're still just trying to figure it out on their own?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too narrow-minded. When you think about those five people, you might think about all the areas of your life, not just your business. Of course, we're talking a lot about business today, but certainly your professional career, but also your physical. You got to be around. I see people killing themselves with what they put in their mouth.
Yeah.
So you got to eat right. You got to work out. Your faith, your relaxation. Your so taking care of your physical health. But then certainly also, mental, and making sure that that you've got people in your life that are abundant in their mindset, that have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. So having good business associates, good friends, even good family. You might have to make some tough decisions who to limit your time with, but yeah, I do try to do that. I think about that, and we don't. My wife and I agree. We don't do drama, so we don't have any friends that bring drama. So if it's drama, we don't. I like to go watch it maybe in a movie or at the theater, but not in my own life.
I love it. So folks that aren't doing the things that you just suggested, and again, like they're isolating, they're stressing or frustrated. What's maybe one or two practical tips or thoughts that you have in terms of getting outside of that feeling of being stuck?
Well, one, I mean, I think you got to get away from it for a minute. I mean, you got to break away. You got to have some quiet time. You've got, probably somebody that's at a higher level than you.
Okay.
So if it's in business, if you've got a stuck, or you've got a challenge, you got a problem, probably somebody that's maybe overcome a challenge greater than your challenge, or maybe a company larger than yours.
Yeah.
Somebody that knows. I mean, I think that would be, who you're talking to is always important.
Yeah.
You might not get the best advice if somebody's not been in your same situation. So it's pretty hard for them to give you advice if they've never, been up against what you're up against. So, the other thing is just having some margin, having some quiet time, whether that's in prayer or meditation, having some time to think about it and really say, okay, here's the problem. What are the potential solutions, and having time to really think through those, possibly again with good guidance from other trusted advisors.
Yeah.
And then if you are married, it's good if you're both on the same page. If you share that in fairness to your spouse, it's important for them to know what's happening in the household.
Yeah. Derrick, for folks who are listening who haven't done the quiet time and seen the benefit of it, how would you explain that to them, and to get them to go, oh, now I get why he's suggesting that?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think, sometimes our actions don't necessarily align with our intentions. And so I think having some time, sometimes I use pen and paper. I still write things, I'll scratch things out. I mean, I think it's a bit of a process, and sometimes it doesn't come overnight.
Yeah.
We were talking today, a friend of mine, we were talking about Obstacles the Way by Ryan Holiday. And in every obstacle and every challenge, there's an opportunity in there somewhere, but it doesn't always avail itself. So obviously, you've got to find it. You got to turn that problem upside down. You've got to you've got to figure out, hey, what's the opportunity in this? Or in certain situations, you say the opportunity is to pivot. So it every that's why life's so interesting, right? So it's all kinds of different problems to solve, but it starts to build your confidence. Once you've been through a challenge and you overcome it, you're successful. you start to build that. You start to really find out what you're made of and what you're capable of accomplishing. But usually it's not, it's not on your own. I mean, it's because of other people that have come along beside you and supported you. And so it's important to find those people in your life. And like Dan Kennedy said, that who, not how. So.
Yeah, I love that concept and principle. It makes a ton of sense. So Derrick, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people along your journey that have helped you with your successes. So if they were all here with us today, what would you want to say to them?
Oh, I'm just grateful that I guess that they believed in me, and you're always taking a chance, and so I'm so appreciative and acknowledging the talent that we have on our team, and you're really good character, good people, and I just couldn't do it without them, and I do thank God for them quite frequently.
Awesome. Derrick, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thanks for sharing your story and your insights.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show. Please help spread this movement by liking and subscribing to our show and following us on Facebook and LinkedIn. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Please pay it forward and be sure to tune in next time to the Self-Made is a Myth podcast.